All right. So thank you, Romin, for jumping on here. So Romin with MovementX is joining us today to kind of talk to us about physical therapy, sort of his perspective on it, kind of his approach to his practice and kind of philosophies on things and how that all ties into just overall fitness and wellness, right? So Romin, I'll kind of hand it over to you, just kind of give some background, kind of how you got to where you are, and then we'll jump right into it.
Sure. Appreciate you having me, Mike. I went to Campbell University. I was in their charter class. We started in 2014, graduated in 2016, and for almost 10 years now of my career, I've been in orthopedic population, everything from performance improvement, post-operative patients, and everyone in between, anyone just looking to move better and feel better. I'm always happy to help out. And that's kind of a very brief history of my background.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, and you more recently moved into working a lot more with athletes, right? As you kind of come out of the clinic setting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The cash-based aspect or the out-of-network aspect as movement operates within gives us a lot more flexibility and autonomy regarding helping patients really achieve their personal goals, which has been really nice. So it's helped me focus in a little bit more on my passion of working with athletes, anyone from the weekend warrior per se, that's just trying to stay fit so that they can keep up with their kids like myself, all the way to individuals that are trying to compete at higher levels, whether that's CrossFit, whether that's in running, Ironman, whatever it may be. I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. With with that, so what do you think? And we've talked about this. You and I have talked about this before, and I think we've even made some content about this particular thing. But what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about physical therapy overall?
I think the biggest misconception of what PT is overall as a profession is we're far more than soft tissue work and stretching. The improvement within physical therapy really happens when we're able to tease out what parts of the movements are flawed and we can correct those underlying flaws to create movement without pain. So I think a lot of people think that they go to physical therapy because something hurts, but also if you don't feel like you're moving well, you can come to physical therapy and we can address that too before it becomes a big problem. So the goal of physical therapy is to keep you moving in an optimized pattern, avoid injury, and also if you are hurting, we utilize some of those passive techniques, the soft tissue work, the stretching to help calm down the pain. But the goal is to get to the root cause. And that's really what I think PT strives to do is let's get to the root cause, correct the root cause so you don't have the problem long term.
Right. And so not just rehab, but also prehab, right? So it's kind of what you're
Exactly.
saying there. And then you keep saying, you say soft tissue work, right? And I think people might think, oh, it's like massage, right? But can you kind of, I guess, elaborate on that? Explain, like, obviously massage has its place, but it's still a different modality and thing altogether compared to physical therapy, right? You want to can you tease it
Absolutely.
out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do work with very good massage therapists. You know, we all are masters of our craft, and I will utilize massage therapists all the time to co-treat with me, as that's their craft. That's what they've really mastered is really working on the tissue, trying to calm things down. When I'm working on the tissue, I'm trying to normalize tissue tone, for example. So it'd be the difference of pushing on your forearm and it's nice and squishy. You tighten the fist, you push again, and it's like, oh, it's a little bit more stiff. The goal with the soft tissue that I'm trying to do is to try to normalize tissue tone so that as we go into the corrective exercises that the body's actually moving the way it should and they're utilizing the muscles the way that they should. So that's more so along the lines of what I'm doing with soft tissue work. You might have heard some buzzwords like trigger point, addressing trigger points, trying to normalize the trigger points before we start exercising. Because what we don't want to do is you to be in pain, these muscles to be really tight, we go to do an exercise and you're moving already with an altered movement pattern. We don't want to further encourage you to move in a bad pattern. Let's normalize the tissue and get it moving the right way so that we can retrain the body as to how it should move, not the way it wants to move.
Got you, got you. And I guess so. What is the massage therapist doing, right? Like, I guess, what is their role? Is it more just like a temporary pain relief thing, and then to help complement the correct movement pattern that you're trying to get them to do, or
Yeah,
what's
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think when you look at the craft as a whole, massage therapists can get in a lot more specific. They know a lot more techniques as far as myofascial release, really getting into the smaller muscle groups of the body. When you're working with me for an hour, I really want to get to the crux of moving better and feeling better, where I can refer you to a massage therapist who then can spend their whole hour just working on improving tissue tone, working on improving aches and pains, getting the muscles to glide a little bit better, within their fascial sheaths. So that's really what it boils down to is I could work on your tissue for an hour, but I'm not going to give you the same result that a massage therapist
Right.
would. So let me focus on what I do really, really well, and then we'll bring in other healthcare providers to complement our services that know their craft really, really well.
Got you, got you. So kind of leading into the next topic or question, right? So kind of keeping it sort of big picture, where do you see physical therapy fitting into the broader wellness and fitness landscape, right? And, you have physical therapy, you have like different types of fitness coaching, whether it's one-on-one group coaching, just general health, right? I guess, what do you see the future of that being, right? Especially now with a lot more cash-based services and stuff.
I think what I'd really like for the future is for people to think as physical therapists as the premier go-to for musculoskeletal injuries. So you're playing pickleball, you roll your ankle on a Sunday, you don't call your primary care doctor up, you don't go to the orthopedic. Let's start with physical therapy. You start with your physical therapist, and the physical therapist can help guide you if additional services are needed. When we talk about the wellness community, I love working hand in hand, specifically with you. We've worked together for several years now where I really rely on personal trainers to help with the strength training programs, the conditioning programs, where I really enjoy working on teasing out the movement patterns.
Yeah.
So I think where we work hand in hand is I can help people move optimally, and then you can take over with the loading and working on loading them more aggressively and helping them reach strength goals, movement goals, whatever it may be.
Yeah, so I guess it would be like in a perfect world, and I think this is what I would love to see too, is like people are like, okay, I need to find a gym, right? And like whether they want to do group fitness or one-on-one personal training, they at the same time they should also be looking for someone like, all right, who's a physical therapist I can work with as well to complement my training, and then who's my massage therapist, right? So you don't have to be a professional athlete to have access, and you shouldn't just I guess it shouldn't just be professional athletes that are looking at like I need to have a team of people that I work with in order to like have that basically play the long game, right? Like have that
Absolutely.
longevity. So
Yeah, I love that example because if a professional athlete's doing it, if it's good for them, why wouldn't it be good for me, right? I like the analogy that it takes a village. When we raise kids, they say it takes a village to raise kids. As we get older, it takes a village. Even if whether in your 20s or in your 70s or 80s, it takes a village. We have a team of medical providers when we go to the doctor. Got cardiologists, we've got pulmonologists, we've got your primary care. Why is it not that way in the wellness community? Why can't we create a network of physical therapists, personal trainers, nutritionists, massage therapists that are your go-to for wellness, the go-to for preventative care, so that you don't need to end up with surgeries or medications or things of that nature?
yeah, I think if we can start getting people to change their mindset around that, right? Like I think you're right. It'll be more like, okay, like we can be more proactive as a society rather than reactive, where it's like,
Reactive.
oh, I have high blood pressure now because of all my terrible lifestyle choices. Let me take this pill. And then that pill causes these other side effects, stuff like that. Whereas if we'd have just, instead of trying to work with our, like you said, cardiologists and all these other different specialties, we'd have worked with all the preventative specialties in the first place, we wouldn't even need it. So, yeah.
Exactly.
I
Love
would
it.
love to see that.
Right there with you.
Cool. So and I guess with that, then, and we kind of touched on it just a little bit ago, but a PT, a physical therapist, they can help with someone that's not currently injured, right? So like, okay, I'm the person that we just talked about, this perfect avatar of like, okay, I have my massage therapist, my physical therapist, my personal trainer. I'm young and healthy, nothing wrong. All right, what's my physical therapist do for me now? I got nothing, no issues, but what do you do?
Movement optimization. I mean, it's the best way to put it. Let's use an example of a runner. You can go run a marathon. Maybe you're trying to qualify for one of the majors. Maybe you're trying to qualify for Boston, London, Chicago, Tokyo, one of the major marathons. You're able to run, but maybe you're not running the most efficient as possible. Or what we can tease out too, even if you don't have pain now, is there anything in your movement pattern that as you continue your training and you get race ready, is there any flaws in your movement that could lead to an injury? think stress fractures, think, strained muscles, hamstrings, quad tendons, whatever it may be. So really, if I'm working with someone and they come to me and say, Ramin, I don't actually have anything that hurts. I just want to become better at my craft. Then
Hmm.
we're going to tease out their mechanics and we're going to get down into specific muscle groups. We're going to look for asymmetries in the body. Basically, we're going to look for precursors that could lead to an overuse injury or an acute injury down the road.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up runners because and this is something before meeting you and actually kind of testing this thing that you had me test for the running. I think you
Oh,
probably
yeah.
already know where I'm going with this, right? I had no idea that this would be something that a physical therapist would do. But you want to talk about, I don't even remember what the device was called, that thing you had me test about a year ago, where it's like the gait analysis. And that was like, I'm not a big runner, but that was just mind blowing and like super, super useful information for me to have. You want to talk about that a little bit and what that looks
Yeah,
like?
sure. Yeah, sure. We were using it was called the Run Easy device, and it was a simple belt you put around your waist, and we send you running. And it was, I think, a 6 minute run is all we needed to extrapolate data as to what would it look like over the course of a longer run. But the beauty of that is that it can pick up more of the minute details and the minute changes in your stride pattern, your loading pattern, excuse me, that the naked eye wouldn't see, or that I can't follow behind you for 6 to 10 minutes of running to see how you're moving.
Get on a razor
So it was
scooter and
really,
just like follow behind
yeah,
people.
exactly. So the nice thing is technology really adds another layer to help level up the services that we can deliver.
Yeah, yeah, that was super cool, and I think there's a pretty big run community here in Raleigh, in the Greater Triangle, and I don't think a lot of people even really. I don't know. Have you been able to have you started utilizing that more as word gotten out about that technology? Because I thought even as a non-runner, I was like, this is so cool, it's so useful, right?
The word is getting out about those types of technologies. The thing that I caution people though too is that sometimes the technology provides too much data. You can start getting so micro analyzed into every second of what's happening with every step that you start to lose the bigger picture of just improving your movement pattern. So a lot of the times when we're looking with, and this is amongst basically all sports, runners, weightlifters, CrossFitters, most recently I was working with a golfer,
Hmm.
is just the ability to break compensatory patterns. And what I mean by that is how can you move your body on a single leg? How are you what's your stability look like? So if we even look at it less granular and look at the bigger picture and just focus on unilateral stabilization, so how are you on one leg? That alone can help improve function amongst all different avenues of athletics, recreation, you name it, pretty significantly.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And I'm one of those people. I'm like a data geek, right? When it comes to business, I'm like all about the data. When it comes to like fitness, I don't as much anymore, but I had like all the like the watches and all that shit, right?
The rings, all of them.
Yeah, and you can have a dysfunctional relationship with that stuff. And sometimes, like you say, yeah, just, hey, it doesn't matter. And I talk about this with nutrition too. Like, don't worry about like carb cycling or all this other like advanced stuff. Like, you can't even squat right, bro. Like, all the other data doesn't matter, right? So,
Exactly, exactly. And the problem is sometimes too, and we have to make sure that we can use the data. The data is super valuable. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to look at minute 16, second 34. I had this little twitch in my data. What was that? It could have been, it could have been a rock in the road that you ran
right,
around.
right,
It
right.
could have been it could have been a gust of wind.
Yeah.
So you don't want to get too focused on that as opposed to, hey, do you feel better? Are you running better? Are your times better? Great. That's what we want to focus on.
So speaking of like, yeah, the like compensations, right? Like that you were talking about a second ago with all this and moving right. I guess what are the most common compensations or dysfunction you see just in like the general population these days, right?
Oh, my favorite. My favorites. Probably if we're going to go the most common compensation, and I challenge anyone that watches this video, just go to Costco or a Sam's Club on a Saturday or a Sunday and
Uh-huh.
go to the water section in the back. Being in the CrossFit gym at CrossFit Serve, you're very well aware of the grip it and rip it technique.
Yes.
So the most common compensation I see when we're talking about shoulders specifically is overcompensation of the upper traps.
Hmm.
If you go to the water section, you'll see people grab a case of water and rather than lifting with their legs and using their powerful muscles to move that case of water, they grip it with all their strength and they rip it up off the ground and they drop it in their cart.
Yep.
And that is the grip it and rip it technique. So, and we talk about where does this compensation come from? It's compensatory movement patterns. It's stress. We all sit like this as we get stressed. I
Hmm.
know I'm no different than anyone else. My wife will walk over and push my shoulders down for me when I'm working. So it's a compensatory movement pattern. Our upper traps start to dominate for everything in the middle back, thereby creating rotator cuff dysfunction, impingement style pain where you start to go up and it's like, oh, it's really pinchy right in there.
Yeah.
All of those really start from that. That's probably the most common compensation I see for the upper body. One interesting caveat too is a lot of that upper trap compensation can also lead to a lot of symptoms such as headaches. So if someone has chronic history of headaches, we call them cervicogenic headaches. They map, they pull around here, they come around the back of the skull, and then sometimes they focus right behind the eye.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty tall tale sign that that's all coming from the muscles. They just pull real tight and they create that tension that wraps around the back of the head. So that's always a fun one when you can tease that out and you can give someone some pretty good pain relief
Yeah.
pretty quickly with some physical therapy. Another super common compensation is a hip flexor compensation. So, muscles are like little brothers, little sisters, big brother, big sisters. They all want to help each other out.
Yeah.
But eventually, and I can say this being the younger sibling is go hang out with my sister and her older friends. And I was the one that went home crying because I got hurt. So
Right.
that's really what we look at compensation. So when you talk about like weakness in the glute med, we all have a weakness in glute med from prolonged sitting.
Yeah.
Yep, right here too. And we do it from kindergarten until, through our careers, right? We sit. So when you start to develop that weakness, the piriformis can kick in to try to compensate. You end up with sciatic issues, very common diagnosis of the pain running down the back of the leg. You can end up with a hip flexor compensation too with running issues. So a lot of the times you'll go to isolate and you'll strength test the glute med and you'll get a lot of hip flexor compensation. So you just need to break those compensations and I always jokingly say we need to get the muscles to do what they want, what they need to do, not what they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's funny, the hip flexor thing. I was reading, no, I think I was watching something the other day online. Something came across my feed, and it was actually another physical therapist. I don't know, I'd never seen him before, but he was talking about with hip flexors being tight, right? So you hear everyone's got tight hip flexors and everyone wants to stretch. He was like, stop stretching. You actually need to strengthen them versus trying to stretch it out, right? And that actually, it's kind of counterintuitive, but that it,
So you give me chills about that because that's one of my favorite soapboxes. So a lot of the times I'll have someone come to me and say, "Man, I'm just so tight. I'm so tight. I need to constantly stretch. Can you stretch me?" And I'll challenge that individual and say, "Are you tight or is your body screaming for stability and health?"
right.
So a lot of the times, your central nervous system is your protection mechanism in your body. If it feels you're going to put yourself into a position that's going to be potentially compromising and create an injury,
Yeah.
muscles around a joint will tighten down to give you a pseudo feeling of tightness when really they're just trying to compensate and stabilize. So, exactly right. Like that video you saw, someone says, "Oh, my hip flexor's constantly tight. I always feel like I need to stretch my hip flexor." My challenge is let's assess the whole hip as a whole and see what muscles are weak. Because if you strengthen the muscles and get them to work the way they should, everything should feel loose. A lot of the times you'll improve someone's mobility without stretching them a single time. If you on stabilization, you can actually become more mobile
Yeah, that makes
because
sense.
the body's not fighting you as much.
Like your own worst enemy, sort of, so to speak,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So, can you, I guess, walk us through, so someone that's never like seen a physical therapist, can you walk us through what a movement assessment with you would look like to demystify that initial meeting that they would have with you?
Yeah, the initial meeting, the big thing with doing physical therapy with myself and movement therapists is we're here for you. We want you to achieve your goals. Your goals are important to us. They become our goals. So initially, it's just going to be a conversation around what hurts, what kind of things exacerbate it, what things make it feel better, and we'll talk about, what are your goals for these sessions? What do you want to get out of physical therapy? From there, we'll go through a detailed movement analysis. So we have an upper quadrant screen, we have a lower quadrant screen, meaning upper quadrant, upper body, lower quadrant, lower body, depending on what you're here for. And we'll marry the two together as well. There's a lot of research around a concept of regional interdependence. So if
Hmm.
you came to me, Mike, with knee pain, and I only look at your knee and I don't look at your ankle or your hip or maybe even your low back, I'm doing you a disservice. Generally speaking, where the pain shows up isn't where the problem is. That just happens to be the joint or the muscle that's taking the brunt of the force. So we're going to do a full movement analysis, full strength test, full mobility screen. And then we're going to sit down and we're going to dive into all of that information because I want you to, when we finish a visit, I want you to walk away and fully understand what's going on and what our plan is going to be to improve that and to correct it. I've been through physical therapy quite a bit. I've had 2 right knee surgeries from ice hockey. And, looking back on my time in physical therapy, I had no idea why I was doing the exercises.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get back to playing. I just want to get back on the ice with my team. So, one thing I really try to do is that if any exercise I give you, you're going to understand the why behind it. Because if you understand the why behind it, A, you'll do it. But B, if something doesn't feel right, you'll know based on what we've talked about, hey, this is probably not the desired effect. Let
Hmm.
me get in touch with Ramin so we can tease this out a little bit further.
Nice. And then so now our perfect avatar for the society that we're shooting for, right? So they've found their whole network of like preventative healthcare providers like you and everything. They've done their initial assessment with you, which you just explained. How often should someone see a physical therapist for sort of like maintenance, right? Like how often should they come see you?
So if we're out of the injury phase and you're feeling better, we're high fiving, hey, things are going well. Usually it's still good to follow up on a monthly basis.
Okay. Yeah.
We have opportunities where you can follow up on a monthly basis and say, hey, you know what? This is how I'm feeling. I'm feeling a little bit stuck maybe with this specific movement, or, maybe I've plateaued in progress here. Great. Let's go ahead and dive in, see what your movement pattern looks like, and then see if we can make small tweaks from there. A lot of the times, it doesn't take a significant change or a significant exercise to elicit a large response in the
Yeah.
body. So really, the maintenance model is just going to be to tease out to see if there's anything else that starts to poke its head out that we can adjust and improve on. One way I like to think of it is, we do a lot of lifts in CrossFit. We do a lot of, cleans and snatches and all of the great lifts, the Olympic lifts. One thing I like to remind people is that Olympic lifters spend 40 hours a week training their craft. So there's always room for improvement. They're always looking for just that minute change in their movement pattern to get them that extra 2.5 pounds or
Yeah.
to get that bar up a little bit faster, right? So there's always something that we can tweak in our own movement patterns to give us that slight edge and that slight improvement every time.
Yeah, just that with the idea of that 1% better every day sort of thing, right? And also
Exactly.
listen to your coach. Even if you've been doing this forever and you think you're moving perfectly or not, I certainly don't move perfectly, right? We all have room
Yeah.
for improvement.
And be open-minded about it too, because I can tell you, as a physical therapist, when I come to CrossFit Serve and I do CrossFit, I'm asking you and I'm asking for all the coaches, hey, give me feedback. I
Yeah,
can't see myself. I can't analyze myself. So give
right,
me feedback. Help me be a better lifter as well, so that I can also feel better, move better, and also help people
right.
improve
Yeah.
their lifts.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, because and that's the thing too. And I would imagine because getting coached too, that kind of it helps you with whether it's training or treating patients or whatever too. Because you're like, oh, I was struggling with this thing, this cue or this thing. I started focusing on helped me, and now you can apply that. Like for me, I apply it to my clients, right? Like in a one-on-one setting.
Absolutely.
I imagine as a your patients, you're like, oh, yeah, I got this thing. I dealt with this issue as well. Let me do this thing or tell you about this, and it just also makes you a little bit
And we
more.
can learn from each other too, right? I
Yeah,
mean, there's
for sure.
no I am not the end all be all for knowledge by no means. So I love learning stuff from you. I love learning stuff from the coaches and being able to bring that to my patients, bring
Hmm.
that back to my patients to level up the service that I provide as well. So we have great opportunities to collaborate, not only to help improve our patients, but also to help improve our own craft and our own skill set.
Right, absolutely. So, working with coaches and personal trainers and stuff like that, is there anything, what do you wish more coaches understood about injury rehab or movement dysfunction? I don't know, this might send you on a rant. Maybe you don't even really have any issues, but is there, because obviously we're not physical therapists, as a personal trainer or CrossFit coach or whatever. Is there something that trainers and coaches tend to miss or do all the time that you're just like, what are you doing right now?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything egregious by any means. I think maybe it's just bring us into the fold a little bit sooner,
Yeah.
If you have someone that is complaining about, hey, that exercise, that kind of sucks, it hurts, I really don't care for it. And it's more than just a one-off that maybe the load or the prescription, if you will, for
Hmm.
sets, reps, load was maybe a little bit off that day.
Yeah.
But bring us into the fold a little bit sooner. We can help. you and I have done this for a number of years together where you'll bring me into the fold pretty quickly with someone who's got an acute injury or an acute issue, and we're able to correct it much faster.
Yeah.
You don't want to sweep it under the rug and say, we'll see how it feels in a couple of weeks, because that's when the compensatory movement patterns really start to kick in and where they really start become the person's primary movement patterns. So bring us into the fold early. We all want people to get better. We're all in this shared goal of improving people's lives. So bring us in early, and yeah, let's go treat.
I like that a lot too. And the I will say in the past I've seen both online trainers and in-person trainers that start getting into basically they're out of their scope, right? And it's like I think there's a lot of pressure on the sort of fitness professionals to be the like I know everything, whether it's nutrition, physical therapy, like all these different things. And like you can get, there's all sort of certifications that are available out there. But at the end of the day, like just because you have your corrective exercise certification from NASM or whatever, you're still not a physical therapist. So stop it. Just because you went to precision nutrition and got your little level one from there, you're not a registered dietitian. So stop it, right? Just know what you do in that lane and then refer out and build your network. So I guess I have more of a rant from what I see from other coaches than you do. It's just like get people strong, right? Like do the personal training thing, do the coaching thing, and then work with other professionals a lot sooner. So yeah, I echo
I love
that,
that.
but I think maybe I have more of a soapbox than you do.
That's fair. That's fair. You're allowed to have good soapboxes too. Don't leave me hanging with soapboxes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's talk about warm-ups. What do you like to see in a warm-up, right? So someone just comes into the gym, they're doing their own thing or whatever. A lot of times, a lot of us are kind of like crunched for time, busy
Yeah,
professional,
sure.
parents or whatever, and so it can be really easy to be like, oh, let me just let me do a couple air squats and throw 315 on the bar and go for it, right? But I guess how long should the ideal warm up be, and what does that look like?
I'm not one to put people in boxes as like you need to do this for your warm up, you need to do this for your cool down. I think it's really individualized. That's part of it being in tune with your body to know where you need to maybe spend a little bit more time. But I think if you look at a 10,000-foot view as to what I like for warm ups is just dynamic movement patterns. I'm not big into isolated motions. Really work on warming up the dynamic movement patterns. So if you're going to have a heavy leg day, make sure that you've warmed up your glutes. Make sure they're active. One thing I'm not a big fan of that you'll hear a lot in the PT community is like, "Oh, your glutes aren't on," or "You need to turn your glutes on."
Yeah,
Quite honestly, if your glutes weren't on, you'd be in a puddle on the floor, and we'd be talking to a neurosurgeon specialist because something is horribly wrong.
right.
Your glutes are on, but maybe let's change that wording to let's prime them for activity. You've been sitting. You've been sitting all day. You go to the gym, and now you're telling your muscles, hey, I need you to work and I need you to lift and move. I need you to be explosive. So, hey, let's wake them up a little bit. Do some lateral walks, some monster walks, reverse monster walks. Those are always my hallmarks to get the hips warmed up. And
Uh-huh.
it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Warm the muscles up, prime them for activity, and then just jump into your activity.
Because a lot of times you'll see stuff online like these like full body flows. It's like these pretty elaborate like 10-minute long warm up before you've even gotten to your first set. Doesn't really need to be all that
I mean,
difficult.
if you like doing the flows, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
It's to each their own, right? For me, I think I'd like to save as much of my energy for the workout itself.
right.
So a lot of the times I'm going to warm up the major muscle groups that we're focusing on for that day, 3 to 4 simple exercises to get you feeling right, and then I'm gonna start progressively loading. Right, that's another aspect that you made a great point. You don't do some hamstring stretches. You don't do a couple of exercises and then load 315 to the bar.
Right.
Your progressive loading is also part of your warm up.
Yes.
There's a reason that we start with an empty barbell squat if we're talking back squats.
Right.
There's a reason we start with empty barbell. Let's get the body acquainted with the movement. Let's get it acquainted with being loaded the way we're going to load it, and then slowly start loading it. Increase your load, decrease your reps, and then you push. If it's a PR day, you push for that PR, a safe PR.
Yeah.
but they're, it's really everyone's, it's their own preference as to what they want to do. But me personally, I think a nice quick warm up is sufficient, based on the activity you're going to do.
As a physical therapist, are there any like exercises or types of exercises you see people do that you're like, I wish I could just wave a magic wand and get rid of that?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. Any specific exercises? If the person feels good doing it, it's fine.
Hmm.
However, if you ask me from a PT standpoint, where do I see the most common injuries?
Yeah.
And if I could wave my magic wand and make those exercises go away to have people live happier and healthier lives and feel better, I'm going to probably remove snatches.
Yeah.
If you're not trying to compete, my love for CrossFit is that it's extremely functional. They're functional movement patterns. It's movements we do throughout our day and that we need to be ready for, whether it's picking up toddlers, picking up cases of water, whatever it may be. But snatches, there's really not anything functional for it. So I can tell you, as much as I love CrossFit and as long as I've been doing CrossFit, I don't snatch anymore. I'm not trying to compete. I'm not competing, locally in competitions. So I just alter it to maybe a clean and jerk. Oh, make it a two-part movement. That's probably where I see people most frequently get injured, particularly with shoulders, is trying to load too high and trying to do a movement that, the snatch is the most complicated movement. Going back to my Olympic training analogy, Olympic lifters train the snatch for years and years and years on end before they go to the Olympics. Doing a snatch progression once every 4 to 6 weeks is going to make you proficient to really be loading that bar and doing that movement.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. As much as I personally enjoy watching or even doing the snatch,
It's a
like
beautiful movement.
there is no actual function. It's a sports thing, right? It's for sports.
Yeah.
It's not, there's nothing functional. A clean and jerk, I can see that as being functional, right? Like I'm gonna
Oh
clean
yeah, I got to
get
pick
five
something in
high
my
kick
shoulders.
things. Yep, and then I got to put it on a shelf, right, or something like that. But yeah, this the snatch is definitely one. And me and Zach were just talking about that before he left. He's like, I don't know, I think I might stop doing snatches, which is funny because that's what basically you've done the same, right?
Yeah, I just changed the stimulus. It's my goal at this point in my life is I want to remain healthy. I want to be able to play with my kids, do the activities that I love to do, and snatches isn't going to get me there. So I'm not gonna run the risk. The juice isn't worth the squeeze.
So you're never gonna just snatch your daughter over your head, huh? And
No,
just move
no,
around with her. Yeah,
no. Maybe a golf club if it's a bad hit. I'm gonna snatch it and then bring it down. But
yeah.
beyond that, no. Yeah, I'm not snatching
Snatch and bring
anything.
it down to your knee and break it in
Yeah,
half. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, kind of wrapping things up here. I guess is there anything that we haven't talked about or covered that you want to put out there to the world about physical therapy, fitness, whatever it is? Any other
Yeah.
soapbox that you want to stand on?
Yeah, I mean, from a physical therapy standpoint, don't let a bad experience ruin your taste for what physical therapy can be. There's a lot of models of physical therapy out there. They're not all created equally, and they're not all ran with the same intention. Not that anyone has bad intentions. Let me
Right.
put that out there right now. But, if you've had a bad experience with PT, give us a try. Give us an opportunity. At CrossFit Serve, we do these events called 30 for 30s, where it's a 30-minute physical therapy treatment evaluation session for $30. And the beauty is we don't keep any of the money. It all comes back to the gym for new equipment, for get-togethers, whatever it may be. But come dip your toes in the water with us. See you're different. See what we can do to help you out. And if you're never sure if it's something that physical therapy can help with, ask us. Yeah, if it's something I can help with, I will absolutely do my best to help you out. And if it's not something I can help with, or I think, hey, let's get an extra set of eyes on it, I will do everything in my power to make sure that you get to the right person in the right place at the right time. And if you're leery of CrossFit and it's, you see the CrossFit games and you think that's what people look like in a CrossFit gym, that's the antithesis of
Yeah.
what the average gym member is. The average gym member is you and I trying to get a good workout so that we can live long and healthy lives. Come give CrossFit a try. Come give personal training a try with Mike at Serve Wellness. It's a great way to help develop your skill set, your strength, to then transition into CrossFit. So if you have a question, ask.
Yeah, and then I'm glad you brought up the 30 for 30, and because you guys, we do it every month, right? Either you or Kristen every month. We're doing it, so super low barrier to entry, low risk, pretty high return, honestly. Once you kind of understand really what it can do for you, awesome. And then if someone wants to just outside of that get in contact with you, what are some ways? I mean, I'll drop it down in the show notes and everything, but what are some other ways they can get in contact with you and set up that initial assessment and get you in their fitness prehab network?
Sure. So the easiest way to get a hold of us, you're welcome to send an email, which you said we can put in the notes.
Yep.
Email is always fastest. You can contact us through movement-x.com. You can select the Raleigh tab, or wherever you may be watching this. We've got hopefully have therapists in your area, and you can select my name there, or you can also feel free to text me or give me a call. Everyone gets access to my cell phone number, so if you have a question, give me a call. There's cards in the gym. And I'm happy to throw my number at the bottom of this as well. And you can shoot me a call, and I'm happy to talk with you and see if it's something I can help out with.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thank you, Romin. I appreciate you coming on. I know you got some other
Appreciate you,
stuff to
Mike.
go, and I got to jet to yet another meeting. So
Hey, anytime.
I'll let you go. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much.